It is Tuesday, it's the 3rd of September. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. Our top stories today. We'll have those stories for you in just a moment, but first we are hearing reports from Russian state news agencies of 2 ballistic objects being fired from the Mediterranean Sea toward the eastern Mediterranean. The agencies are citing the Russian Defense Ministry. Britain's Defense Ministry says there was no UK involvement. Let's cross live to Moscow, where we join CNN's Phil Black with more on this. Phil?
Monita, yes, as you mentioned, these reports come from Russian state media, and according to these reports, they say...
Phil Black in Moscow, thank you very much. Syria is hemorrhaging women, children and men who cross borders, often with little more than the clothes on their backs. Those are the words of the United Nations as it announced more than 2 million people have now fled since fighting began. In just 12 months, 1.8 million people left the country. More than 4 million others are displaced within Syria itself. 520,000 people are in Jordan. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Antonio Guterres, has called Syria the great tragedy of this century. He joins us now from Geneva. Sir, thank you very much for being with us. The great tragedy of the century. Not too long ago, we were talking about the human catastrophe that is Darfur, and now it seems the refugee crisis in Syria has surpassed that catastrophe in Sudan.
Indeed. First of all, the number of victims. We have now 1/3 of the Syrian population displaced. But to countries like Lebanon, like Jordan, like Iraq, especially Kurdistan, like Turkey, that indeed are assuming a responsibility that is a collective responsibility of the international community.
Antonio Guterres, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, thank you so much for your time. And while we discuss the refugee crisis, the U.S. President Barack Obama continues to try to rally lawmakers ahead of next week's vote on military action against the Syrian government. Mr. Obama plans to meet with more elected officials later today before heading to Europe. Brianna Keeler joins us now live from the White House with more on that. Brianna.
Good morning to you, Monita. Now with 2 of Congress's most prominent hawks apparently on President Obama's side here. White House officials tell me...
All right, Brianna, thank you for that. Brianna Keeler there live for us from the White House. Updates on a story that we brought you right at the top of the hour here on the show, and that was the ballistic objects that were reportedly fired in the Mediterranean. At that point, no one knew exactly what it was or what had landed, if anything at all. What we do know now, that according to a U.S. official telling CNN that it was an expected Israeli system test, and that is what occurred in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. A U.S. official also tells CNN that no ballistic missile launch has been detected, none from the U.S., I should say. There has been no offensive or defensive missile launch by the U.S. military, and the official was adamant, saying that this did not involve U.S. forces. Again, they are saying, however, it was an expected Israeli system test. That's what we know right now. You're watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. You're watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. I'm Monita Rajpal. Japan's government says it will spend nearly $500 million to try to tackle the toxic water crisis at the country's damaged Fukushima nuclear power plant. Over the weekend, officials found radiation levels there were 18 times higher than previously thought. Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO as it's known, has been struggling to deal with radioactive water at the plant. Now, this has prompted the government to step in. Paula Hancock joins us now live from CNN Tokyo with more on that. Paula?
Well, Monita, many people in Tokyo and potentially around the world are asking why it took the government so long to step in. But they have stepped in 2.5 years after that disastrous earthquake.
Paula Hancock's live in Tokyo, I should say. Thank you very much. You are watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. She pitted herself against the elements, and she won. Diana Nyad became the first person ever to swim from Cuba to Florida without a shark cage. We'll find out. You're watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. What would happen to your body if you swam in open water for more than 50 hours straight. Well, that's what Diana Nyad is finding out after completing her record-breaking journey from Cuba all the way to Florida. The 64-year-old endurance swimmer is recovering now after reaching the shores of Key West on Monday afternoon. CNN's chief medical correspondent Sanjay Gupta spoke to her and joins us now from Key West in Florida. Sanjay, good to see you. She has inspired so many people that I believe even your mom wanted to speak to her.
Yeah, no, my mom did want to speak to her. My kids want to speak to her. I mean, she is one of these people that,
You bet. I love that. Find a way, indeed. All right, Sanjay, thank you so much. Always good to see you. Now, just one day after a rare tornado, Japan prepares for more severe weather. This time, it's a tropical storm. Meteorologist Mari Ramos is at the World Weather Center with more on that. Hi, Mari.
Hello, Monita. Yeah, they did have a very rare tornado because even though tornadoes do happen in this part of the world, yeah, back to you, Monita.
Mari, thank you very much. Well, London is in the midst of a late summer heat wave, and as some people may feel like they're melting in the sun, one of the city's newest buildings has caused at least one car to bend in the heat. There's a Jaguar owner who's none too pleased. Isa Suarez checks out what actually happened.
The walkie-talkie building is having a dazzling effect on passers-by, but not the sort its architects would have wanted. The $300 million building is reflecting dazzling rays of light onto the streets and has damaged the panels and the wing mirror of a Jaguar. Now, the car was only in the ray for about an hour. There was
Isa Suarez there. You're watching CNN News Center. I'm Monita Rajpal, live at CNN Hong Kong. Thank you for joining us. I'll update you with news headlines in just a couple of minutes.